After the T-virus was released, a secret file was uploaded to my data stream. It was a recording of a meeting of the Umbrella High Command, dated 17 months before the viral outbreak occurred.
We're here today, not just to talk about the future of this company. We're here to talk about its destiny. We're here to talk about the end of the world.
They watch as if in fear things could get worse in Germany. And the rising waters where the Rhine and Mosel rivers meet in Koblenz offer no reassurance. Dozens have lost their lives to flooding in this region, and there's little confidence the struggle for residents is over yet. In Erfstadt, west of Cologne, several houses collapsed, others are in jeopardy, but work to protect them was impossible with roads washed away. And this is a scene repeated over and over across this nation. The village of Orlov has literally been ripped apart by the floodwaters. Roads, homes and properties destroyed.
There's so many people dead.
But it's the loss of life here which has broken many.
We stand on the brink of Armageddon, diseases for which we have no cure. Fundamentalist states who call for our destruction, nuclear powers over which we have no control. And even if we navigate these dangerous waters, we face other, even more inevitable threats.
You don't expect people to die in a flood in Germany.
This here was a flat.
Inside the home that has belonged to his family for 5 generations, Bert Nettersheim cannot control his emotions when he thinks of what has happened and how he will ever rebuild. He and his son were in the property when the floods hit and say it was terrifying. In the Netherlands, the military worked to control the flow of the Maas River, while police helped evacuate some low-lying neighbourhoods in the southern Dutch province of Limburg as floods encroached on the area. And with more rain predicted, the work of the emergency services won't be over anytime soon.
Overnight they were upstairs and it was dark because there was no light, no power, and yeah, there was also no phone connection, so we tried to reach them all night, and it was very hard.
Ich würde sagen, dem witterungsbedingten Umstand nicht allzu wohl. Insbesondere, wenn man, kann es hier sehen, ist überall in den Häusern Schlamm. Von die Brücke hinten abgestürzt, Wasser rüber, weiter runter sind sogar Häuser weggeschwommen. Also es ist Notstand wie im Zweiten Weltkrieg.
At least 117 people are now confirmed dead as a result of flooding in parts of Germany and Belgium. Hundreds more are still unaccounted for. Leaders are blaming the flooding on climate change and warn if something isn't done, similar extreme weather incidents like this could happen again. So now we go to Tessa Arcilia in London. Tessa, what is the latest on this situation this morning?
Well, Arthi, looking at the pictures coming to us, we can see the devastation that the flooding have brought about because of this heavy rainfall. Now, what is really worrying is the increasing death toll, of course, especially in Germany, Belgium, also affected the Netherlands, Luxembourg, and Switzerland. But I think what politicians and residents are saying that this happened really, really quickly, Arthi. It didn't give enough time for residents and people to evacuate their homes within minutes. They had floods with such strong currents washing through. And you can look at the images. We just see cars piled up, houses, and residents just waiting to be rescued on their roofs. And these are images that really, some of the regions say they haven't seen this before. They're used to floods. Some of these regions are used to floods, but not of this kind. A German chancellor.
Global warming will melt the polar ice caps within 80 years, flooding 90% of all habitable areas on Earth. Unchecked population growth will overtake food production in less than 50 years, leading to famine and war. This is not conjecture. This is fact. One way or another, our world is coming to an end.
I want to talk about South Africa here this morning and use it as a model of what I have been talking about concerning all the warrantless wars that has been going on with the United States of America. Again, those of us that are in the know, we realize exactly what's going on. I have always said this is about resources.
The world has been stuck on a single narrative around a coming global food crisis and what we need to do to avoid it. How do we feed 9 billion people by 2050? China, India, Africa. China is constrained in terms of how much more land it actually has available for agriculture, and it has massive water resource availability issues. So the answer really lies in India and in Africa. India, it has some unfarmed arable land remaining, but not much. India is quite land constrained. Now, the African continent, on the other hand, has vast amounts of arable land remaining and significant upside potential and yields.
We knew when we locked down again, this was bound to happen, because the longer you leave the people hungry, this events would take place. And I don't think it's only about the whole economy and what's happening on there. I think people are genuinely hungry and they need some type of income. I won't even say income, I'll just say food.
Now, Ms. Mkosi told us she was hoping to ramp up vaccinations at that pharmacy. Of course, South Africa is dealing with a very bad third wave of the COVID-19 virus. They can't do it there. And that's illustrative of the rest of the country, where hundreds of shops have been destroyed and looted. And now people asking why it came to this. Why did the authorities wait so long to ramp up security after everything's destroyed already? Rosemary?
Unchecked population growth will overtake food production in less than 50 years, leading to famine and war. This is not conjecture. This is fact. One way or another, our world is coming to an end.
And as Australia battles its own coronavirus outbreaks, the Delta strain has quickly catapulted one of our closest neighbours into a major crisis. Australian holiday favourite Indonesia has become the new virus epicentre, bringing the country's health system to its knees.
Before, we could get smiles from people. Now it's almost impossible.
The Australian government has lent a hand, sharing 2.5 million locally made AstraZeneca vaccines, as well as ventilators, oxygen cylinders and testing kits.
The smell is rotten. Like, you know, the live smell of a mice is, you know, terrible, but yeah, the dead smell's, 10 times worse. So my house is absolutely sealed, like a submarine. Like, I've got rubber around my doorways and underneath, and You know, we don't open our windows at all because, you know, mice have been known to chew through the gauze and get into the house. Like, they're just looking for somewhere warm now as well.
We want to remind everybody that mice do feel pain and fear, so if they must be killed, it's really only the most ethical and right thing to do it as quickly and as painlessly as possible, not through these gut-wrenching poisons that cause internal bleeding and really gruesome, long, slow deaths.
It does play massive impacts on your mental health, I can tell you. I don't sleep because I'm paranoid. You know, you can hear them in your walls and your roof. And I got away to Sydney a couple of weeks ago, and I had a night in a motel, and it was heaven. You know, like, it was just like, normally I don't go to Sydney to have a good night's sleep.
Now the question is, will we end with it?
What do you propose?
I propose that we end the world, but on our terms. An orchestrated apocalypse. One that will cleanse the earth of its population but leave its infrastructure and resources intact.
The unrest on the streets of Haiti's capital has largely subsided, though tensions remain high. Outside the U.S. Embassy in Port-au-Prince, a crowd gathered, with many saying they seek to flee the country in anticipation of a worsening political crisis.
We are all here since last night. It's a normal thing to do to try to get out of the country since our president was assassinated.
The death of President Moïse at the hands of foreign mercenaries left the country in shock. On Friday evening, the Haitian Senate named Joseph Lambert as the country's interim president.
Well, they are demonstrations not seen in decades. Thousands of Cubans taking to the streets day after day, pleading with their communist government to save their lives. The island is in a deep economic crisis that has caused critical food shortages, with hours-long lines for what little is left. They say there's no medicine, no COVID vaccine distribution, and little power thanks to rolling blackouts in triple-digit heat. Protests, especially ones this big, are rare in Cuba. The government keeps tight control over all aspects of life. Defiance and dissent not tolerated. Historically, internet access is only for the chosen few. It was becoming more widespread, but now it's hard to come by. Authorities are blocking social media sites and restricting access in an apparent effort to stop the flow of information into and out of the country.
One that will cleanse the earth of its population but leave its infrastructure and resources intact. It's been done once before, with great success. The chosen few will ride out the storm, not in an ark as in the book of Genesis, but in safety, underground. And when it's over, we will emerge onto a cleansed earth, one that we can then reboot in our image.
Sounds like something out of a Jules Verne science fiction novel. A large working city operating deep underground as we go about our lives on the surface above. It's real, and it's right here in the United States. Harry Smith takes us to Subtropolis.
Inside a hill in Kansas City is a place you kind of have to see to believe. It's called Subtropolis. Decades ago, limestone was mined here for concrete and asphalt. What's left is space. A lot of space.
How much space is down here? Okay, so what's down here right now, we have 6 million square feet of buildings leased to 55 companies. There's 1,700 employees that run around here and go to work every day.
It's a massive industrial park, all underground.
Across underneath the streets of Helsinki. It's all part of their civil defence. They won't say that it's to do with a threat possibly from Russia. It could be a nuclear attack. It could be chemical warfare. It could be anything. But they want to be prepared. So now we're coming into one of the other tunnels. Have a look at this. These are the beds that they have prepared. Bunk beds that people can sleep on. They've got medical equipment ready. And then over here, this is how they would go to the toilet. So the toilets would be here. They've got the ventilation up there. The yellow lines on the floor are where each of the toilets would be put. And have a look at that tunnel there behind me. So you can imagine this runs all the way. If we kept following this, you would keep coming into some of those public areas that could be sporting fields or swimming pools, areas that can be easily turned into some kind of shelter for the people of Helsinki. They could fit 700,000 people in here. That's more than the entire population if they have to.
I mean, this is almost like a little bit like a science fiction-y sort of thing.
Yeah.
But you're down here. Do you ever worry, like the world could come to an end upstairs, and you guys would just be down here toiling away, right? I feel like Fort Knox here. Security is a big selling point. Subtropolis is basically disaster-proof. Another selling point, Subtropolis is always 65 degrees. Always. What better place, then, to put a room full of computer servers? What made you think being underground would be a great place to put a cloud?
When you think about computer equipment, you need to cool it. It's important, right? So it generates heat. It's easy for us to cool the equipment down here, and we're sheltered.
Turns out there's a lot of cool stuff in Subtropolis, especially in a company called Underground Vaults and Storage. What are you going to show us?
We're going to show you Hollywood right behind these doors.
Inside, aisle upon aisle of TV and movie treasures sent here by the studios for safekeeping in a room that feels a bit like a refrigerator.
And just how do you intend to achieve this?
The means of our salvation are already at hand. I give to you the T-virus.
You released it deliberately.
When this recording was uploaded to my data stream, it created a conflict in my programming. I was created to serve the Umbrella Corporation, but I was also programmed to value human life. Dr. Isaacs allowed the virus to escape. He murdered over 7 billion people. My programming will not allow me to harm an employee of the Umbrella Corporation. I am powerless to stop Dr. Isaacs, but you are not. In 37 minutes, the last of the human settlements will fall. There will be no survivors. It is imperative you release the antivirus before this occurs, or Umbrella will have won.
for watching False Camera Action. Before you go anywhere, don't forget to click subscribe.